I'm Mark Fernandez, and this is Franchising with Fernandez. Hi, I'm on the phone today with Natalie Brennan, General Manager of Muffin based in sunny Sydney. Welcome, Natalie.
Well, I don't know how sunny it is today, Mark. I think it's, I'm actually just a little bit out of Sydney, and it's going to be a top of 6 degrees today. So it's not so sunny today.
A bit cold there. Wow, that's great. But at least this, it's not pouring with rain and hailing and torrential downpour, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your franchise group. Walk me through how many franchisees and stores do you have, I guess, in the Muffin Break brand?
Sure. So Muffin Break is in Australia. We have 186 freestanding stores, and then we have another 22 that are embedded in the Crocs Play Centres. But then we've also got 38 in New Zealand and 62 in UK. So I've got a bit of a world perspective on COVID based on our complete network as well.
Wow. And you're across 3 countries, is that right?
Correct, yeah. So I'm not managing those 3 countries, but particularly New Zealand I'm very close to. And the COVID response in each of those countries has been really different. But we're all owned by the same franchisor group. And in fact, Australia and New Zealand are completely owned. And then UK, we're a joint venture partner. So we are very close to those 2 countries.
Wonderful. And you alluded to it before, we are in crazy times at the moment. So with your support people and your franchisees, can you just give us a little bit of an insight over the last few weeks of what you've been through?
Yeah, well, I actually, this week is the first time I've actually sat down and really started to look at the timelines, because we actually were just insane as far as how it went. So I thought I'd talk you through, a couple of the key dates, and, for those that are remembering different things, you'll be familiar with what happened. So really for us, we started to get a good idea of what was going on very early in March. And that was because our sister brand, which is also owned by the same franchisor, Jamaica Blue, we have stores in China. So we actually were speaking to our licensed partners in China very early in March. With the pandemic starting in China, those licensed partner stores were shut down very, very early. And so we got an insight into that as to what our future was going to be like. So the other thing that was key for us in early information was that our business is owned by a family, and they come from a medical background. Many of them are actually doctors. And so we were also getting a very knowledgeable medical side of the story as well. So first week of March, by those 2 things, we knew what was coming. And so that really was a process then that we worked through. So interestingly, March the 2nd was a Monday, and the International Women's Day was the Friday, which was the 6th. And I actually presented at an event that had about 600 people. So you want to talk about how our lives have changed really quickly. We went from, 600 people in a room to very quickly not being able to go anywhere. So the next week, which was Monday the 9th, was when we first started talking about how this was going to impact Australia. And by that Friday, the 13th, we were having our very first COVID crisis meetings within our senior leadership team. And I remember it was a Friday, and I thought, look, we're going to be fine till Monday. We don't need to have any more calls over the weekend. And then that night, Friday night, was ScoMo came out and said, you need to remove half your tables if you're in cafes. And then all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we kept being partly shut down. So every kind of few hours, something else happened. And by Monday morning, we were in complete crisis, not in crisis, but in crisis meetings about what we were doing and dealing with our customers and our franchisees. So that was the 16th. On the 17th was St. Pat's Day, and we actually did a big $2 muffin day on that day. And that's the day we say was the last day of normality, was St. Patrick's Day, 17th of March. On the next day, I actually pulled all the staff out of the stores. So that was when my field team came out and we started working from home. And that was a Wednesday the 18th. And I thought that we would be able to sort of, operate and work that way for a number of weeks. But by the next week, we were seeing New Zealand already in lockdown. So to give you an idea of how many days between that first COVID crisis meeting that we were having internally, Friday the 13th, to when I pulled my entire team out of the field was 5 days. So we went from normal to extreme in 5 days. And I'm sure anyone listening went through that as well. So it happened really, really fast.
Oh, no, you're right. The escalation is unprecedented, for boards and groups and leadership teams to get together and act quickly and swiftly and decisively. It's amazing. So, hats off to you and your group. Well done.
Yeah. So we were doing, from that very early days, we were doing contact with our franchisees on a daily basis. So very early, like we're talking in that very early March, we were already seeing in some of the markets in Australia, particularly where there was a large Asian population, we were seeing customer declines up to, 20, 30% pretty quickly, but the rest of the network was fine. And so it wasn't until we got sort of that, particularly when cafes got shut down and the community really got frightened. And that's when obviously the pandemic, stockpiling started and all that type of thing. But at our worst, our stores were 70% down. So the hard thing here was that when we were sort of going through this and we had our staff outside of the field, so they were working from home for about 2.5 weeks. And then we had to make some serious decisions about the longevity of our business. And so we stood down 90% of our staff temporarily. And I'm happy to say that next week they're all going to be coming back, at least part-time. So for the last 4 weeks, we've had a skeleton staff of really senior people who've all taken pay cuts to really keep the cash in the business. But part of the reason we did that was we thought we would be locked out as well. So we saw it in the UK, we saw it in New Zealand, we saw it in China, and we thought that's where we were heading. And so in essence, we were preparing for the business to be hibernated for a period of time, but it never happened. And so we've had Muffin Breaks open through the whole period, and we've been supporting them, and particularly having to change their strategies and their structures and what they're doing and how they're doing it with their staff. But from the 186 in Australia, the Crocs Play Centres got shut down immediately because they're a different industry. But from the 186 Muffin Breaks, at the lowest number, we had about 130 of them still open. And today we have 162 open. So the franchisees have not shut down through this whole thing, partly because we couldn't. We were never officially shut down, but also because many of them wanted to continue to support the people they're out in the shopping centres who were working, like the Woolies and the Coles guys, because without a food operator, none of them were buying lunch and all those types of things or having a coffee. So many of them have stayed open to support their communities, which is a key thing through this whole time.
Wow, wonderful. And now can I turn to you personally, Natalie, you and your family. Obviously, you're working from home at different times. How has this affected you, and what challenges, I guess, have you guys gone through? Will you share a little bit?
Well, I've spent the morning homeschooling. That's the toughest job I've got right now. So I have twin boys that are 8 years old. And all they want to do all day is actually play gaming. So that's been really difficult. Obviously in this last couple of weeks, we've had school holidays, but trying to, work from home. And for those that don't know me, my husband also works in the business as well. So Muffin Break is run by my husband and I as two of the senior people. So it's both of us trying to, keep Muffin Break alive, and the team that we've got left. But mainly dealing with 2 8-year-old boys who don't really care. They just want mummy and daddy's attention for 100% of the time. So it's that part's been challenging. keeping contact with the staff and franchisees we've ramped that up, but hasn't been difficult because we are pretty much a work from home type of structure anyway. With having stores in, every region in Australia, we have an office, but we don't work out of that office necessarily. So mine was a very transient work from home kind of employment base anyway. So that hasn't been difficult. Probably the thing with the franchisees has been a little bit harder. We've been doing Zoom calls with them. Lots of, as I said, I mentioned before, almost a daily communication update with them. I've had, Q&A sessions. I'm doing videos with them. So I've ramped up my communication with them. I would communicate with them normally once a week, and now that's daily, if not second daily, in a whole heap of forms. So teaching them how to do Zoom has been interesting, and we've had lots of laughter with the franchise partners trying to get them onto Zoom, and all the stories that you're seeing on social media is what we've experienced as well. So some of it's pretty funny, particularly in a time frame where you're talking about very serious things. Somebody coming on with only being able to see their head, and they think they're okay is pretty funny sometimes. So it's a new normal, but for us it's not an extreme new normal. So
well, there you go. And can we just talk to get you to talk to some of the key things that you've been assisting your franchise network with? Have you been helping them with rent relief, fee reliefs, all those kind of nitty-gritty details? Can you walk us through some of those things?
Yeah, so I keep talking about communication, but that really has been the key, and that's a daily changing, what is the priority today kind of messaging. The key thing with that they've really appreciated is that we haven't just sent them, a link and read it yourself. We've been really succinct. So, daily I'll say, today you need to focus on these 3 things. And then that gives them kind of the daily things, and then they move on, rather than bombarding them all together with the just massive information that's come. So as that's kind of passed through, clearly the very first thing was health and safety, procedures around that, supporting them in many different ways, whether that's contacting health inspectors and helping them work through the labyrinth of what they needed to do immediately. So that was kind of the immediate health reaction. And then obviously JobKeeper came in. So we've been running Q&A Zoom calls about JobKeeper. As JobKeeper sort of unfolded, we were giving them update sheets about that. We've given them things like, then the banks came in and said, we're going to help you. So we gave them our contacts with the bank, and behind the scenes, obviously, we rang our contacts with the bank, and so we could give them some really shortcuts on that. And then with the leasing code unfolding, really getting them to understand that. We're actually doing, next week, we're actually doing a Zoom call Q&A on the leasing component, but giving them really succinct information, little spreadsheets that they can actually work out the code for their own personal situation. So lots of information. And then obviously behind the scenes, we're dealing with the lessors ourselves, because we are the holder of the head leases with every site. And so that's a big job for us, but we're just reassuring them that we're getting on with that. They need to get on with serving the customers, and we'll get on with the back end of it. And then from a fee structure point of view, is that we've reduced our marketing fund. We immediately reduced our marketing fund to 1% for 6 months, and our royalty to 4% for 2 months, and then we'll review. So we're normally 7 and 3, and at the moment they're 4 and 1. But we're also just helping them through other things, like we're also the supplier of their coffee. We're actually a manufacturer of that product as well. So, helping them on terms to make sure that they can keep being supplied, not only with our coffee, but also all suppliers. So that was the other thing we did very early, was we rang all of our suppliers and got extension of terms for them. So that initially in that first couple of weeks, it was just all about keep your cash, get yourself sorted, get this health part sorted, and then start paying your bills after that. And that's probably where we are today, where we're now helping them through their cash flows of payments.
Wonderful, some wonderful initiatives there, Natalie. And you're right, cash flow is king, isn't it? Especially in these tough times. Understanding
Yeah,
your cash flow and knowing how to stop the bleeding and knowing where to look and what to do while keeping focused on, may I help you please? Getting back to your
yeah,
customer flow.
yeah.
So important, so
But
important.
a key thing too, Mark, is really about their mental health. I've been very focused on that from the very beginning, because, they're also, remember, every one of them is a small business. They have, a team of people that's an individual store, sometimes 15, 20, 25 people. They're local community people, their families in the local community. So the stress levels on them to not only keep their business alive, but also keep the business alive for the people that they employ in their communities has been incredibly stressful for them. So, that there's a double whammy for them, of, where they feel that they need, just that help. And we've also been doing that with, we have an external company we have been working with for some time, but I've been encouraging them where they need to contact that external company. It's called Acacia. It's a program of support. And so if they are struggling, there is another resource on top of all of us that they can just ring and get some help to help them through this really difficult time. And letting them know that it's okay, that everybody is in this and everybody is struggling, and it's okay if they're struggling, but we really need to support them to make sure they're okay.
Oh, wonderful. All right, let me crystal ball with you a little bit. So let's do some gazing. What do you think the next 6 or 9 months look like, for your business and for Australian franchising and consumers? Give us some insights. What are you feeling?
So if we start at, sort of the even this weekend, we're going to see, some restrictions lifted. I think that social distancing and things like lining up, crowds and that type of thing, we're not going to see those types of, or customers wanting to do those types of activities for months. And I would say definitely until the vaccine is there. So what that means for us is that, whereas you would maybe line up 5 or 6 people to grab a coffee and whatnot, maybe you won't join that line unless it's 2 or 3. So because you're just not going to want to be in a line near people that you don't know. The whole idea of food courts, tables, those types of things, the shopping centres, which is where we live, have already identified that their cleaning regimes need to be now tenfold what they were before. So they're already ramping up for that, because again, what they don't want is a COVID outbreak in a shopping centre will shut that shopping centre down for, however long it takes to clean it from top to bottom. So they're going to be very diligent on those types of things. And then within each retailer, that we need to be diligent as well. So things like, really basic things like hand sanitizer. Like I hadn't bought hand sanitizer since my children were babies, but that's going to be in our handbags and our cars and everything for probably ever. I think that's one of the things that's not going to change anytime soon. Wiping things down, that's going to just be habits of what we do. But I think it's not going to be a V-shape return. It will be probably a very long U, is what I suspect, one step at a time. And I think that we won't really see any sort of, if you want to call it pre-COVID normality till 2022. So we're in here for a long haul. It's going to be slow, and it's going to be long. But there'll be lots of silver linings that come out of this. Even in our own business, things that we didn't think were possible have now been fast tracked, and we will have it up and running for, very soon, so there's going to be a lot of silver linings, but it will be different. Our lives will not be the same again. But you'll read any of the futurists or any of the people that look at, how cultures and how society changes. And after, things that have happened like world wars and similar pandemics we've had in the past, that's where the mother of invention creates new ways, and it just means it's new. So we're pretty lucky in, 2020 that we're a society that's used to change. So this is just another gigantic change that we need to get used to. So, yeah.
Wow, there you go. And Natalie, if you had, one I don't know, golden egg or one nugget to give the franchising community some positive vibes out there to hang in there or to keep going, what would you say to our listeners out there?
I'd say, build your resilience muscle, because that's what we're going to need more than anything. This too will pass, and it's going to be different, but that's okay. Sometimes difference and change is better. And I think once people move through, they are moving through a grief of our old lives. And I think once people move through that, they'll move to the positivity. So I think the nugget would be, it's okay to grieve right now and be angry and all of those emotions. But once you're through that, then let's get going into our new normal, and it will be better. And we just need to get to the other side.
Wonderful. Well, there you have it. Natalie Brennan, General Manager of Muffin Break, based in pretty cold Sydney weather at the moment. So, Natalie,
Yes.
To you and your family, I wish you all the best health and safety and wellness over the next few weeks and months, and keep smiling. And we really thank you and appreciate your time and insights today.
No problem. Thanks, Mark. And, thanks to all your listeners. Try and find those silver linings. It's going to be okay.
If you have any positive franchising stories out there, I'd love to hear them. Drop me an email at mark@bda-online.com.au. I'm Mark Fernandez, and this is Franchising with Fernandez.